All right, guys, thousands are feared dead after a huge magnitude 7.7 earthquake has struck Thailand and Myanmar, destroying buildings and sparking fears that even major dams could potentially collapse and lead to catastrophic flooding. We're going to talk about that today. And then forecasters from the NOAA are already giving their forecast, if you can believe it. They're already giving their hurricane forecast, and according to them, there's going to be 6 major storms that will slam into the United States of America because this is going to be an active hurricane season. We're going to cover all of this and more in today's podcast. Let's go.
The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
All right, what's going on, guys? It is Friday. It's the end of the week. It is the last Friday of the month of March in 2025. And boy, did we end this last Friday of March with a huge event. We're talking about a magnitude 7.7 earthquake that struck the Thailand area. And we're going to get right into that today. I'm going to open this up. Before we do that, would love for you guys to hit that like button. That's going to help push us out there so eyes can get on our program and get on our ministry. And then go ahead and take it a step further. Hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and then you're going to be notified here on all of these social media platforms. And of course, if you want to take it a step further and make sure you get every headline, every podcast, every breaking news alert, prophecy viewpoints, we have special guests all the time. You'll get all of that right at your fingertips by going to your Play Store, whatever that looks like for you, Apple, Android. We have you covered for both devices. Download it today, hit yes to push notifications, and you're going to be squared away, and you're going to have every headline and every podcast and everything right there. Again, like I said, at your fingertips on your phone, your tablet, or whatever you download that app on. So we know in the gospel writers of the book of Matthew, the book of Mark, and the book of Luke, and we call these the synoptic gospels. But all 3 of these writers all agreed upon this one thing. And that is when Jesus warned, when they asked him, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age and the return of the Son of Man? He said that there would be a series of events. And in the book of Matthew, I'm going to pull this up because I want to show you this. In the book of Matthew, look what he says here. Jesus says, "Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, and see that you're not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various locations." Now, your King James will say diverse places. Same word, it's just one is an English translation, but this is what it translates out to be, is diverse or various or different locations. And then Matthew said all of these are the beginning of sorrows. And again, that word sorrows meaning birth pangs. So let's talk about earthquakes. When we think of earthquakes in various places, you can think of just regular earthquakes. Earthquakes are happening all over the world. They happen all across the globe. They happen every single day. Most of the time, they're harmless. It's the earth releasing pressure and pressure points. We call these fault lines, and this is a good thing that they release this pressure. And of course, the earth is made up of what I call like an artery system, and we call these fault lines. And you have major fault lines like the San Andreas, the Hayward Fault, the New Madrid Fault. You have these lesser known faults, and some of these are even up in the north and northeast around the Boston, New York, and Virginia area. And some of those over the past 10 years have become more and more active. And again, to me, and it's interesting because when they produce an event, you'll see the headlines and the seismologists and the experts will say this is a rare occurrence, or this is a rare earthquake. To me, when I hear that this is prophetic, because again, if it's a rarity and it gets the attention of the entire nation and the world, then this is something you need to be paying attention to. And again, it agrees with Matthew, who says these are the beginning of sorrows or birth pangs. In other words, they're going to increase in intensity and they're going to become more frequent. Now, I love what the gospel writer of Luke says here, because it really brings out stuff here. Because again, you always get your skeptics and say, well, there's always been earthquakes since the dawn of time. This is true, and we don't deny that. But they, according to the Bible, they are going to intensify in magnitude and also in number as we get closer to the end of the age and the return of the Son of Man. Now look at Luke 21. I'm going to pull this up. Again, this is Luke chapter 21. Now he says something a little bit different here. Again, same verbiage here. Jesus said, take heed that no one deceive you. Many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time has drawn near, and therefore do not go after them. But when you hear wars and commotions, do not be terrified, for these things must come to pass first, but the end will not come immediately. That's really a key too. And then he said to them, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be, now he didn't say earthquakes as Matthew did in various places. He says there will be great earthquakes. And again, if you are a regular viewer of our podcast and our ministry, you will know that we have highlighted this Greek word great many times. And we pointed out the fact that it means megos in Greek. And it's literally where we derive the word mega. So when you put this together, it's where we get the term megaquakes. Okay? So this is, now think about this when I pull this article up that I'm getting ready to show you. This is an event, again, that transpired today. I'm going to show you this. Thousands are feared dead after a huge mega or great, this is what this is talking about, earthquake hits Thailand and Myanmar, destroying buildings and sparking fears that major dams could collapse and lead to catastrophic flooding. Now, I want to get back to this article in just a moment, but we do have a video, and I'm gonna pull up this video so we can watch this together, because there is some extraordinary footage here that was caught firsthand by those that were on the ground. So we're going to pull this video up, and we'll watch this together. Here, let's check it out.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And you are watching CNN Newsroom. I'm Rahel Solomon, where we are following breaking news this hour. A major 7.7 magnitude earthquake has rocked Myanmar and Thailand. Officials in Bangkok say that one person is dead, 50 others are hurt in a collapsed building in the capital. And the prime minister there declaring the capital city an emergency.
Look at this building collapsing right here.
Zone. CNN photojournalist Mark Phillips in Bangkok says that the tremors were violent. A resident of the city shot this video, and you can see water splashing out of a rooftop pool there on the high-rise apartment building next door. The USGS says that the quake had a depth of 10 kilometers or 6 miles. A large aftershock of 6.4 magnitude happened about 12 miles after the initial quake. Let's bring in CNN's Hanako Montgomery, who joins us live this hour in Osaka, Japan. Hanako, give us a sense of what's the latest you're hearing. What are you learning?
Hi, Rahel. As you just described, a very large earthquake hit Myanmar, one that measured about 7.7 in magnitude. And the earthquake was so powerful that it was felt in neighboring Thailand and also China. Now, as you just described,
wow, so even in China it was felt.
At least one person has died in Thailand, and at least 50 people we know have been injured. We actually don't know how many are actually currently missing. Now, of those people who died and also were injured, they were all victims of this very large building that came tumbling down. Now, I think you just saw that video, but this video shows there's a building under construction, very, very tall. And as soon as that very powerful earthquake hits, this building comes crashing down with dust billowing out, construction workers literally running for their lives in the opposite direction as the ground below them is trembling. Very, very frightening for these individuals. Now, in another video, we saw that a very tall skyscraper, a very tall building with a swimming pool on top, had the water coming down as though it was a waterfall. Again, a very, very frightening experience for those residents in Bangkok. Now, in terms of Myanmar, where the earthquake's epicenter is actually located, we know that it occurred and it was hit in the city of Mandalay. Now, Mandalay is actually the historical and religious capital of Myanmar.
Did you hear that? That's interesting. So the epicenter struck in the religious capital of Myanmar. Now, again, I want you to keep in mind, folks, that if we're going to go to the Bible, we're going to go to the Bible. And both Isaiah and Jeremiah, these prophets, warned that there would be consequences for nations that worship idols and worship false gods. And I just think this is interesting because, remember, we have to remember, there's several passages. The book of Hebrews, the book of Haggai, they both of these books talk about there will come a shaking that will shake heaven and earth, the sea and the dry land, and everything that can be shaken will be shaken. And again, this is going to intensify, and it's only going to increase in magnitude again. And I base that upon, again, the birth pangs, the travail, Matthew 24. Romans 8 says the entire earth is in travail. And one of the causes of these earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and these disasters like this is the shedding of innocent blood. The shedding of innocent blood through abortion, through the slaying of prophets and believers. Because remember, their blood has a voice. We learn that all the way back in the book of Genesis when Cain slew Abel. And the Bible says his blood cried out from the ground. So it has a voice. And then I can take you to the book of Revelation where there are souls under the throne room of God. And they're crying out saying, "How long, O God, until you avenge our blood?" And consequently, their blood will be avenged on a scale that we can't comprehend. And it will take place during the tribulation when literally all hell is breaking loose in the tribulation with the bowl judgments, the vial judgments, the seals are being broken, all that stuff is happening. So we're not in the tribulation right now, but we are in the birth pangs of the Messiah. So again, based on all the information that we just read to you biblically, again, these things are only going to increase and they're only going to intensify in magnitude. Let's get back to the video.
About 1 million residents there, and it is home to many, many temples, and it really has a very rich...
Did you hear that? It's a home to many temples. Now, I can tell you, they're not worshiping the Lord Jesus Christ in those temples.
History. But of course, we don't actually know how many of those buildings are still intact because, again, of this very powerful earthquake. And Rahel, of course, it's important to note that there is a civil war going on in Myanmar right now. So the information coming in and out of the country is very limited. We don't know how many people have died. We don't know how many people have fallen victim to this very powerful earthquake and also the aftershock that happened after it. But we do know, according to one resident who was there, and the earthquake hit about 1 p.m., they said that the electricity went out and it was very frightening and it felt as though they were going to die. Now, also important to note, Rahel, is that Myanmar is one of the poorest countries in Asia, and they don't actually have the infrastructure to withstand these sorts of very powerful earthquakes. So
look at that. Look at that debris. Look at the rubble. Look at these men standing here. Look how big that is in magnitude as far as how large of a debris space that is of this building collapse.
There's a lot of fear here, Rahel, that there could be a lot more injured and potentially a lot more dead. Now, the fire brigade has been dispatched in Myanmar, and they are currently looking for any remaining survivors or any people who might need help. Rahel.
All right, Hanako Montgomery live for us here in Osaka. Hanako, we will check back with you shortly. Stay with us. In the meantime, I want to now go to Singapore, and joining us now is Shanji Wei. She's an associate professor at the Asian School of the Environment. Great to have you this morning. Just your first reactions as we continue to learn more about this earthquake.
Yes, when I first saw the news, well, it is not an unexpected event based on our research. So myself and the other teams in our institute, we have been investigating the seismic hazard in Myanmar since about 10 years ago. So the earthquake took place along the segment of the Sagan Fault, which is a plate boundary type of fault. It's a major fault in Myanmar. This fault has hosted big earthquakes in the past few hundred years, and it has been quiet since about 200 years ago. And based on these historical studies as well as modern geophysical investigations, we know that this segment of the fault, is likely to rupture as a big earthquake in the near future. So we have been communicating with the Myanmar governments as well as local scientists, highlighting the potential high-risk seismic risk along this segment of the fault. So this earthquake to us is not unexpected.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, as our reporter was just sort of discussing and alluding to there, I mean, this was something that you and your researchers and team had been tracking, the science community perhaps had been expecting, but obviously the domestic politics in Myanmar right now, the situation on the ground there perhaps made it more challenging for officials there to perhaps pay attention, as you say, to the warnings that you've been trying to issue.
Gee, now think about that. What she just said, and apply that to America. Apply that to regular society. Society is so busy and so distracted by politics and entertainment and all this other nonsense that they fail to hear the warnings. I mean, I'm getting a message just out of that practicality there. This is pretty amazing when you think about this prophetically speaking.
Exactly. Well, given the political and also the economic status of the country, I think the multiple cities along the Sagan Fault is very vulnerable and kind of at the high seismic risk. So, we as scientists, we try our best to provide the best scientific information to the stakeholders.
And guys, you have to wonder, let me pull this back here just for a second. And notice what he said here. We've been expecting this. We've been paying attention to this for 10 years. How long have they been telling us this with the West Coast and with California? How long has seismologists, geologists, all the experts, how many of them have been saying it's not a matter of if, but when? When the big one blows, when the New Madrid blows, when California gets hit, think about when are we going to wake up one morning and we see breaking news or we get it across our phone and it says 7.7 or 7.8 or 8.0 or larger, whatever the case may be. And it's not in Thailand and it's not in Japan. It's not in these places where we expect these or somewhere, on the ring of fire that's more expected. But what are we going to do when it says it strikes somewhere on the New Madrid or the Hayward Fault, somewhere in Seattle, somewhere like that? Imagine, I'm telling you, this is going to be a reality one day. It's not a matter of if, but when. So I think this is interesting that this man is telling you that they've been expecting this, they've been anticipating it, and it was only a matter of time until it happened. But the one thing that really stuck out to me was they were so busy because they have a civil war, there's politics, all this stuff has been so distracting that people disregarded the warnings. They disregarded the warnings. Is that not what, look, Luke 21 says that. Do you know that? Did you know that the Bible says something very similar to this? Let me pull this up in the Bible. I want to show you this. Come on, let him who has ears to hear. So here you have the Lord telling us there's going to be all these signs. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. But then you get down here to the very last part of this passage, and he says, "Take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life." That and that day come upon you unexpectedly, for it will come as a snare upon all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch therefore and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all of these things that shall come to pass and stand before the Son of Man. That is a warning from Jesus himself, and it's in the same context here. Don't let yourself get so preoccupied with the lust of the flesh, the cares of life, all these things that ensnare your soul, ensnare your flesh, ensnare your mind, that you are no longer aware and you're not paying attention to the signs and seasons all around you, and you don't even know what time it is. Come on, somebody. I'm not talking about whether it's 8 o'clock on Eastern or 7 p.m. Central. I'm not talking about that kind of time. I'm talking about the time of God, the fullness of time, when events are accelerating, just like we're talking about here. So let me go back to this article. Let me pull this up. Again, they're saying that thousands could be dead after this earthquake. And then they're also saying that the dam could collapse and cause even more damage through a catastrophic flooding. Let me read this right here. Thousands are feared dead after a huge quake again struck Thailand and Myanmar this morning, destroying buildings and sparking fears that dams could collapse, leading to catastrophic flooding. I don't want to rehash all this. I want to go down here. Let's look at this. More than 20 children are believed to be trapped in a destroyed school in Tuangu, I don't know how you pronounce it, central Myanmar. Shocking footage showed workers fleeing in neighboring Thailand as a 30-story high-rise building under construction in Bangkok collapsed around them. We just saw that footage multiple times. There's images of that building collapsing. There's the aftermath of the building. Look at that, guys. This looks like a scene from 9/11 in New York City in America. And again, here's more footage of this. Here's another image of this collapsed building. They're helping people out. Again, we don't know if there's people. There had to have been people in that building. We don't know how many. They're still searching for survivors. They're searching for the missing. This is just a terrifying situation here. And again, there's images and pictures all over the place. This is the fault line that this struck on. This is what this scientist was talking about. And this is where the epicenter was. And again, this was consequently right there is again right here, is the location of those temples and the religious capital there. And again, they're not serving the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Just letting you know. Now, I found this interesting. Look at this. Footage shows collapsed bridge and destroyed temple. So a temple was destroyed in this as well. So again, here's traffic trying to get out of the city. And again, some of these images can be graphic, so we don't want to get flagged here. So I want to scroll down. This has got a lot of footage and video. Again, this is on you can find this on the dailymail.com is where we're pulling this up, all these images. And again, when I see this, guys, it reminds me, look at that. Wow. It reminds me, again, when I read Matthew 24, Luke 21, there will be earthquakes and there will be great earthquakes that will happen in diverse locations or various locations. Okay, so keep these people in prayer. We don't know what's going to come of this. We don't know we don't know the full magnitude of the count of the lost. And when I say and I'm talking about the missing, we don't know how many is dead. We don't know the full extent of the injuries, but we suspect it's going to be a much larger scale than what we're being told right now. So I want to shift gears, guys. And by the way, tonight I'm not going to spend a lot of time. It's Friday night, and I actually will be recording 2 programs tonight. This one, and then I'm going to be getting Jason Armstrong on, and we're going to do a 4-hour segment on interpreting dreams according to the Bible. You don't want to miss. This is going to be really good, and we're going to air this next Tuesday. So if you're one to want to know, was my dream of God, or did I just eat too much pizza, or does God still give dreams today, or was that done away? We're going to cover all that in this podcast that we're going to record. And again, we're going to air that next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, so you don't want to miss that. So I want to close out this one last segment here, since we're talking about disasters. I thought this was interesting. So check this out. 6 storms could smash the United States as forecasters are already warning of an active hurricane season. Again, it is March, guys, getting ready to go into April. Hurricane season don't typically start till September, October. And they're already predicting another active Atlantic hurricane season that could bring even more destruction than the storms of 2024. Now think about Hurricane Helene and what it did to the Appalachians, to the people there in Appalachia. And they're saying that this could be even more devastating. AccuWeather has released their first forecast for this 2025 season, and it includes as many as 6 major storms. That's interesting. 6 is the number of man. You have there's 6. Revelation 13, 666 is the number of the beast. And again, I just think that's interesting. The 6 major storms directly striking the U.S. this summer. That's the number of storms that caused roughly $500 billion in damage in 2024. With Hurricane Helene and Milton that brought the most destruction. Now, I don't mind telling you guys that the warning, the sirens are going off, but because look, I'm not one to tell you that there is no such thing as weather modification equipment and weapons that nations have at their disposal. I absolutely 100% believe they do. We've covered this in other podcasts. So I do think it's alarming that it's only March and they have such confidence that that they're going to see, we're going to see 6 major hurricanes. They're going to be more destructive than the ones of 2024. It's things that make you go, I don't want to say too much here because, again, I don't want to get flagged by Google or YouTube or whatever platform may flag us here. But I do think that's interesting, to say the least. So just think about that as we move forward this year. After a historic 2024 season, which was correctly predicted by AccuWeather, look at that. It was correctly predicted by AccuWeather to be, quote, supercharged and a blockbuster. An active Atlantic hurricane season is again predicted for 2025. So I think it's suffice to say here, guys, that we can expect this coming hurricane season to be on a scale that we saw in 2025. So everybody that's listening to me, if you live in anywhere on the coast, you live in Louisiana, you live in Texas, you live in Florida, especially down there, or even let's go to the east. You live in Virginia, you live in New Jersey, anywhere in that location. Well, you need to be paying attention to this. And as crazy as this sounds, even the folks in the Appalachians, who's to say that another hurricane could not conveniently take the same track as Helene and go through and add insult to injury? That would be absolutely horrific. But, we've seen the most strange and bizarre things happening with these weather events. Again, that's why I've always pointed out it's unusual, unprecedented, once in a lifetime, once in 100 years, once in 1,000 years, never seen before. And these terminologies, they keep coming and they're bringing them. This year, forecasters project that there will be as many as 18 named storms, up to 10 hurricanes, and 5 major hurricanes to watch carefully as they cross the Atlantic. According to the report, currently the AccuWeather team believes it's highly unlikely that this year's hurricane season will be weaker than average. In the worst case scenarios, 2025 storms could start forming as early as May. Are you kidding me? So somebody needs to write that down, because they're warning us already that they could start forming as early as May. Now think about it. Most of us in the South, Tornado Alley, we're concerned about tornadoes. Now we got to be concerned about hurricanes. And if you live down, on the coast, you live in these areas that are prone to this. Currently, the AccuWeather team believes it's highly unlikely that this year's hurricane season will be weaker than average. Again, they're saying as early as May. And the last hurricanes of the season in October and November could still be dangerously powerful. The ominous forecast is being fueled by meteorologists predicting an absence of El Nino this hurricane season. El Nino is a weather phenomenon that can last for 8 to 12 months and brings unusually warm weather surface temperatures to the eastern half of the Pacific, but it also creates a weakened storm system in the Atlantic. Okay, with El Nino likely out of the picture, meteorologists are projecting that this year's El Nino southern oscillation is leaning towards staying neutral or shifting to La Nina later in 2025. ENSO is a short-term change in climate determination by warming or cooling of the Pacific Ocean's water along the equator. Right now, the forecast is for these waters to stay relatively normal throughout hurricane season, with a chance they could turn colder in late summer or fall, the La Nina phenomenon. In either of these cases, the AccuWeather team says the results will likely produce a stronger hurricane season for the Atlantic, meaning the threat of more storms slamming into the U.S. East Coast. Wow. As far as how many of these hurricanes will impact or make direct impact with the U.S., forecasters looked at this summer's predictions for the Bermuda Azores high, a subtropical high-pressure cell that moves westward during the summer and fall. Basically, this guides tropical storms and hurricanes from the waters near Africa to the Caribbean and U.S. Depending on how this pressure cell behaves throughout hurricane season will reveal how many storms spin right into the America's East Coast. A strong Bermuda Azores high will force more of 2025 storm to barrel into Florida and move up the coast. Here we go. Wow. Right now, the forecast is for 3 to 6 major storms to directly strike the United States. 3 would be an average hurricane season, while 6 would be as bad as 2024. Similar. Now look at this. Pay attention to this, guys. Similar to last year, the northern and eastern Gulf Coast and the Carolinas are at higher than average risk of direct impacts this season. So you need everybody in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, all these locations. You need to be paying attention to this. If you have family that live there, you need to show them this. Why? So they can prepare ahead of time. I'm telling you, as soon as one of them suckers starts forming in the ocean, I'll be paying much attention to this. And last year, the 6 storms that directly struck the U.S. included Helene, Milton, Beryl, Debbie, Francine, and one unnamed storm. Hurricane Helene alone is estimated to have caused $250 billion in damage in particularly North Carolina. AccuWeather's Jonathan Porter said that thousands of families and small businesses across America are still struggling to recover from the weather disasters over the past year, and we estimate that hurricanes, wildfires, winter storms, and impacts from extreme temperatures over the past 13 months have had a combined total damage and economic loss estimated at over $693 billion to $799 billion. The Senior Vice President of Weather, Content, and Forecast Operations added, while hurricane season officially begins in June, I thought it was later than that. I guess I was wrong. June 1st, meteorologists noted that the sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic Basin are currently far warmer than normal. And I'm going to leave you with this. Meteorologists are urging everyone in the potential path of the Atlantic hurricane season to make sure they have a plan in place when storms arrive. Guys, again, these disasters are expected, not because of quote unquote the CC word that the politicians push and the mainstream media push and the scientists push. That's not what I'm attributing to. I'm attributing these disasters to increase and intensify based on the very fact that Jesus said all of these things are the beginning of sorrows. And if they're the beginning of sorrows, it means, guys, we're not in the 3rd trimester of the birth pangs. We're still in the 1st and 2nd trimester, but as we get closer to the delivery of the, come on, and before we get closer to the delivery and the breaking of the water, the birth pangs are only going to intensify and they're going to increase in magnitude. And I'm going to leave you, as always, with Luke chapter 21, verse 28. And Jesus said, when you begin to see all these things coming to pass, to look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Again, guys, endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. That is our main website. Bookmark it. If you haven't yet, download our free app. It's available on Apple and Android devices. Simply hit yes to push notifications, and you're going to be squared away right there at your fingertips. Also, if you have not prayed about becoming a monthly partner, why don't you go ahead and pray about that? Listen, we are a partner-based ministry. Everything we would not be able to do what we do if it wasn't for our generous partners and supporters just like you. And you can be a part of our team, and you can help us with the generous gift of any amount or partnership, and whatever that is. You pray about that and let the Lord lead you to do that. And you can do that electronically through many different ways on the website. Or you can give by check or money order right there on your screen at End Time Headlines, P.O. Box 1391, Monroe, Georgia 30655. Guys, I want to remind you, this coming Monday night, as always, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, we have our live prayer and devotional. These have been wonderful. Again, you got to come over here and subscribe to our YouTube channel to be a part of this. And again, we'll be right here, same time, same place, and same channel on Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Central. And we hopefully will see you come and be a part of our family, but part of our group and part of this body of believers that are just hungry for a word of God, and they're hungry to touch heaven with prayers of agreements, to see breakthroughs, to see deliverances, to see healings, and to see the Lord move in their life. So guys, we're going to let you go for this weekend. I pray that the Lord bless you. I pray that He keep you, and may His countenance shine upon you. Until we see you on the next one, God bless.
Thank you for listening to the End Time Headlines podcast. We pray that you've been blessed and equipped by today's message. For more information about how you can help partner with our ministry, please visit endtimeheadlines.org.